Coming to you live from our studios in Belize City, this is the evening news on Love Television for Wednesday, July 20th. To start things off, we'll take a look at the top stories for today. Tonight, Belmopan police are boasting of cracking the case of robbery at the Income Tax Department. We'll tell how and who are the alleged culprits. Music icon Elton John meets with Belize delegation in South Africa. Prime Minister Dean Barrow speaks on how he feels regarding the Lucas homicide and whether he is confident that the police will carry out a thorough investigation. Meanwhile, the leader of the opposition wants the Minister of National Security removed. He told us why in a press brief earlier today. Briceño also spoke on a dismal economic future for Belize as a result of the BTL Arbitration Award, among other instances of mismanagement of funds. There has been a development in the homicide investigation of Pastor Llewellyn Lucas, which occurred last week. Day 5 of the investigation has turned up video surveillance, according to national security officials. The media met up with them this morning at the Hattieville police station, where an update was gotten.
I must confirm that is true. This is a very thorough video, and at present our experts at the Police Information Technology Unit are reviewing, and again they have been doing that since Saturday morning and all through yesterday. I myself took a look at it, and I'm convinced that yes, these people act callously, and from what I have seen, it shows that the conspiracy theory definitely is in place. This is an identifiable video. The investigator himself pointed them out by face as they moved about preparing the vehicle and placing the kidnappers and the deceased inside that truck.
Minister John Saldiva and Deputy Commissioner Russell Blackett were attending the inauguration of a barracks for police officers. We will have that story for you later on in our newscast. Last Friday, July 15, the employees at the Belmopan Income Tax Office were held up at gunpoint by 3 robbers. An estimated $30,000 plus valuables belonging to the employees were taken. The police officer on duty was tied up and his .38 revolver taken. The Belmopan police have reported this evening that they have apprehended 4 suspects in connection to the crime. Officer in charge of the Belmopan Police Station, Senior Superintendent Howell Gillett, spoke about the suspects and the items they have been able to recover.
There were 2 simultaneous investigations, this robbery and the murder of Mr. Lucas. They occurred on the same evening, but our officers, although they were stretched thinly, we were able to do simultaneous investigations, and I believe we are at a point where I'm able now to direct our officers to go ahead and lay charges against 4 individuals that we have in custody. The 4 individuals are divided, 3 males and 1 female. We believe the female was the driver of the vehicle at the time, and the 3 males were the persons who entered Income Tax Department. So far, we've confiscated 1 rental vehicle, 2 motorcycles, a large sum of cash, a 9mm pistol, a .38 revolver. This is the same one that has been confirmed. The one that the police had at the time, that has been recovered also. We believe that we have sufficient evidence based on what was left behind at the scene. I won't go any further into what was left behind, but we believe that we have sufficient evidence, and we are looking at charges of robbery, abetment to commit robbery, possession, or 2 counts of possession of unlicensed firearm and ammunition.
The Belmopan police have had their hands full this past week with the ongoing investigation of Pastor Llewellyn Lucas's murder and the Income Tax Department robbery. Gillett attributes the progress made in both investigations to the quick response and team effort of his police officers.
We have very motivated police officers working here at the Belmopan Police Station. We also have a very cooperative, understanding public that we serve. We have an extremely great relationship with the public that we serve. So we continue to not work as an outsider, but we continue to work together with the 12 villages and the Belmopan area, along with the periphery areas of Belmopan. So I believe it has to do with a combination of great officers and knowledge and experience in investigations, and also the great members of the public that we serve here in this area. The public in this area have been very cooperative with the Belmopan police, and hence the reason we're able to solve this crime this quickly, and despite that there was a simultaneous investigation of the murder, we were able to solve both crimes in less than a week's time. So I'm very pleased with the police's performance, and I want to say thanks to the general public who continue to display great camaraderie, great partnership with the Belmopan police.
And Gillett stated that the 3 males and 1 female suspect will be charged tomorrow before noon. Last Friday, we told you of AIDS activist Martha Carrillo having to endure several uncertain hours at the Istanbul airport after the attempted coup had caused the flights out of Turkey to be grounded. Carrillo was on her way to South Africa to attend the 21st International AIDS Conference, which she arrived at on Saturday with the assistance from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Erica Castellanos, who is also in Durban, South Africa, as a part of the Belize delegation, was involved in an accident and had to undergo surgery on her second day at the conference. Despite the challenges our Belize delegation has experienced over the last few days, the silver lining has appeared as earlier today they were in session with the music icon Elton John, and the announcement was made that Castellanos, who is the NGO delegate for the Latin America and the Caribbean, has been chosen as one of the grantees of the Elton John AIDS Foundation. The details of the grant are yet to be ascertained, but we are in contact with members of the delegation and will share the information as soon as it is passed on to us. The Elton John AIDS Foundation has listed its vision as, quote, to create an AIDS-free future through science, support, and most of all, compassion, end of quote. Earlier this year, there was the discovery of a headless torso found in the river in the Belmopan area. It was a gruesome scene as the body was already in a state of decomposition. The discovery of a human head, however, is unprecedented in Belize, and with that, Prime Minister Dean Barrow expressed outrage at the entire incident as it continues to unfold.
Like everybody else, I was shaken to the core by what has happened. I would have thought a murder is a murder is a murder, but that ain't so. I mean, Lord, this is absolutely grisly. This is gruesome. This is beyond the pale. Apart from that in itself, I am again completely bowled over, completely flattened by the fact that there are allegations. The charges are not just against this foreigner, Canadian, Guyanese, wherever he is, but our local people. That there are Belizeans capable of that sort of thing absolutely petrifies me.
Prime Minister Barrow also noted that the current crime situation is enough as is without having to deal with such a case of murder, beheading, and kidnapping.
I begin to wonder where our society is going. That is, of course, not something that's usual, and I hope we will never again see anything like it. We have enough difficulties as it is with the gang rivalries and with the internecine shootings and the murders, especially in Belize City, that the press conference on Monday was designed to address. Of course, it was completely sidetracked because of what happened. So let me just put on record how, as I said, absolutely mortified I am that that sort of thing could have happened in our country.
With all the questions being formulated and the intense coverage of the Lucas murder investigation, Prime Minister Barrow says that more is being drawn from this than what really is.
Just the extent of the questioning makes clear that you all mean to draw more from this than it properly can sustain. What it can sustain is what it is, and I've already conceded that optically it is a problem for us politically, but I insist there is no suggestion that the acquaintanceship that various ministers had with this man resulted in any kind of impropriety. I hope to God nobody will try to make the giant leap that seems to be lurking in the wings and suggest that ministers, merely in consequence of an acquaintanceship, is somehow guilty by association with respect to crimes that this gentleman is accused of having committed. Lord, man, we have to draw the line here.
Lucas's head was discovered Friday night in the pan of a F-150 pickup truck. It has been noted that since the murder of Pastor Llewellyn Lucas, there has been a deafening silence from the religious community. Ordinarily, there would be release or expressions of outrage or sympathy, particularly considering that this was a member of the religious community. Today, we are seeing the National Garifuna Association extend condolences via press release that states, quote, "The National Garifuna Council extends condolences to the family and friends of Pastor Llewellyn Lucas in this time of bereavement. As a community, we are saddened by this gruesome act, not just to one of our very own, but to one of God's creation. Pastor Lucas's horrific and untimely death has impacted all of us, and this heinous act of decapitation cannot be condoned in our society. The response must be spiritual, as well as bringing together everyone from all walks of life in deep prayer to ask God's guidance for revelation and that the perpetrators of this grisly crime be brought to justice. This is the second Garifuna person murdered within a short time, and the council is demanding justice for our slain Garifuna brothers. We are still awaiting the news of arrest for John J. Rodriguez's murder, but silence is loudly echoing. The National Garifuna Council calls on the government of Belize to partner with professional agencies and seek independent foreign assistance to investigate the beheading of Pastor Lucas and other heinous murders in Belize, especially those that have gone cold. As a social partner, the National Garifuna Council is willing to collaborate with authorities and seek long-term solutions to address the underlying causes of this genocide. We stand together as Garinagu and Belizeans to pray for God's guidance and sovereign intervention over our country to end this madness." End of quote. Leader of the opposition led a PUP press conference this afternoon at Independence Hall in Belize City. One of the issues addressed was the recent killing of Pastor Llewellyn Lucas. Briceño says that this recent killing should jolt everyone to the point where justice is demanded.
We asked you here today because a Belizean, a pastor no less, is dead butchered in the most horrific and gruesome of ways. His head cut off and put on ice in a bucket. This severed head was carried around in the pan of a pickup owned by a man who rubs shoulders with people in the highest of places from the very corridors of Belizean power. Now we all know that in our country, a person is innocent until proven guilty. But everything I just said has to give us pause. It should shock and jolt each of us. More than that, from the reactions of Belizeans everywhere, there are too many unanswered questions, and Belizeans are demanding not only answers, but justice to ensure that an act of this nature never happens in our country again.
During today's conference, Presenio presented the details that the PUP have been able to gather on the investigation and other related angles, including the allegation by the police that he was inaccessible.
Our reliable reports are a Mennonite corn farmer was introduced to Mr. Mason by a minister of government, Mr. Mason, to import corn on his behalf, $300,000 worth of corn. Mr. Mason, however, never delivered the corn, and after multiple queries from the concerned Mennonite businessman, Mr. Mason allegedly kidnapped the man and his wife at gunpoint and demanded more money. This, we are told, was reported to the police. Yet Mr. Mason was never detained, much less arrested and charged. When asked at a Ministry of National Security press conference on Monday why Mr. Mason was never arrested, Acting Commissioner Russell Blackett said, "Mr. Mason is, and I quote, a very cunning guy. The location that he is located for us to get in and search would have been problematic for us." End of quote. End of quote. But that report was made 2 months ago. Last month, Mr. William Mason, who is at various times a pig farmer and a corn importer, a chef, a semi-pro sports investor, and yes, a political financier, emerged at a national emergency press conference here in Belize City as one of the government's search and rescue experts. He was even interviewed on national television. So Mr. Blackett is saying they can't get this man because reaching him is problematic. And while they can't find him, he is giving interviews on national television. Given all this, we believe that the police have much more explaining to do. We also believe that had the police acted on the report of Mr. Dodd, the Mennonite corn farmer, and arrested Mason, Pastor Lou would probably be alive today.
This morning, following his presence on the morning show, Prime Minister Dean Barrow clarified the sequence of action taken when he was personally informed of the kidnapping.
There was never, as far as I can determine, any suggestion that the man was a would-be murderer, a kidnapper, somebody who engaged in violence. It seems that the information initially was limited merely to the fact that he will rob you blind in consequence of relationships and associations that a number of people, business people, voluntarily got into. But there was never any suggestion that this man was a threat to public safety. There can be no business of the man having gotten any kind of protection which allowed him to continue to pose a threat to public safety while the police knew that he constituted that sort of a threat. Nobody knew, as far as I can determine. As I indicated, I did get a report maybe 3 weeks ago about his having kidnapped the Mennonite couple. I immediately called the Minister of National Security, called CEO Lovell, and I was told, well, the Mennonite couple left the country, did not make any report to the police. That was the first, as far as the officials are telling me, that there was any suggestion that this man is more than a con man. And again, the husband, in terms of that couple, was in a business relationship with him. And it seems the kidnapping occurred as a consequence of their having fallen out of the allegation from the Mennonite that the man gypped him, and when he tried to request an accounting, this is when that sort of thing happened. But he left the country. He reported to his Spanish lookout community, who told an official of government who came to me. I immediately acted upon it, but the people said, he's gone, obviously in fear for his life, will not make any report to the police, so there was nothing the police can do. But at that point, certainly, the question of surveilling this guy came into play. That was 3 weeks ago. Before that, as far as I can determine, in my conversations with the national security officials, there was never any suspicion that this was a violent type.
Love News understands that the Canadian couple that was kidnapped are back in Belize and should be taking part in an identification parade. The relationship between National Security Minister John Saldivar and the accused murderer William Mason is one of the highlights in this case, and with that has come speculations that there may be a cover-up of some sorts. PUP party leader John Briceño spoke of the financial contributions received by Saldivar.
Our reliable information says that the chief suspect, William Mason, who is also known as Danny and as Ted Olet and or Ramesh Olet, a Guyanese national, also considered to have Canadian nationality and who for a while lived in the United States and who is known to be involved in all kinds of unsavory and seedy operations, enjoyed friendships and relationships with the most senior of cabinet ministers in our country. According to none other than the Minister of National Security, last year around September, the police provided him with such damaging information on Mr. Mason that it forced him to sever all ties to Mr. Mason. Minister Saldivar said that since then he has had absolutely no contact with the accused. Minister Saldivar confessed that Mr. Mason had helped to sponsor his very expensive Belmopan Bandits semi-pro football team, but insisted, quote, he has never contributed to my political campaign, end of quote. We won't argue with National Security Minister Saldivar whether financing his semi-pro team isn't part and parcel of financing his political campaign. But in September of last year, both the police and Minister Saldivar had an opportunity to bring in Mr. Mason for questioning and possible arrest and expulsion from Belize, and they didn't. If they had, we submit, Pastor Lucas would probably be alive today.
The blame in this entire investigation is not solely being placed on the lap of John Saldivar, but the PUP has also rendered some blame for the Immigration Minister Godwin Hulse.
While Minister Saldivar must answer many questions about how this man was able to get multiple gun licenses, even when a simple Google search turned up so much that brings his character into question, Immigration Minister Godwin Hulse also has a lot more explaining to do. On Monday, Minister Hulse blamed Vital Statistics for the fact that foreigners are able to get bogus certificates and eventually end up with Belizean passports. The question is, what has the government done to ensure that these perennial violations and acts of corruption are stopped? If William Mason, a man who is the lead suspect in the cutting off of the head of a Belizean pastor, could get a bogus birth certificate, who is to say whether other dangerous international criminals and terrorists haven't been able to do the same and eventually get Belizean passports?
Briceño goes on to remind the media and the public of the past investigations that had been thwarted.
What we have seen in the Penner passport scandal and the Edmond Castro visa scandal has convinced us that an impartial investigation is impossible under the circumstances. In the case of the Penner scandal, the Commissioner of Police had to be hauled to the Supreme Court, and the Chief Justice had to issue a mandamus order for him to do his job and investigate Penner, a sacked Minister of State. The Commissioner never did, and we all know the outcome of that case. To date, we are yet to hear from the officer who is in charge of the Belmopan Command and who was the person who was supposed to be in charge of the case from the onset. A life has been lost here in a most gruesome and heinous manner. No loss of life is trivial, but the way Pastor Lucas was viciously murdered and the people connected to this case demands thorough scrutiny of the police minister and several senior members of the police department. In light of this, I call on the Prime Minister to urgently remove the Minister of Police from his post. We believe he can no longer be expected to preside impartially and without fear or favor over the Ministry of National Security, plus his record with respect to keeping Belizeans safe is far from outstanding. While at it, the head of the GSU should be made to stand down. His character is now questionable, and also the Minister of Youth, Education and Youth, by his imprudent association to an international con artist, should at the very least be publicly reprimanded. And now we are told that the Prime Minister admitted that Minister Papa Mena has accepted a donation of $10,000 from Mr. Mason.
Prime Minister Dean Barrow was the guest on the morning show today. While 2 hours of his undivided attention would seem sufficient to cover a wide range of issues, it wasn't nearly enough to discuss 4 of the top burning national issues, those being the BTL Arbitration Award, the murder of Pastor Llewellyn Lucas, crime, and the Belize Guatemala issue. As it relates to the Lucas murder and the arrest of William Mason, who is said to have enjoyed close relations with several cabinet ministers, Prime Minister Barrow says that he made it a point to table the matter in yesterday's cabinet meeting.
Papa Mena said to us yesterday, my God, when there was the flooding at Hope Creek, this man was one of the first persons out there helping to move people out of their homes and to take them to higher ground. He obviously somehow got involved with CEMA. I don't think it's the larger NEMO, it's the Belize City Emergency Management Organization, and publicly made donations of equipment and that sort of thing. My short point is that he's without a doubt a con man. I'm careful as a lawyer in talking about the murder to say he's an accused. In terms of his activities as a grifter, as a con man, there is no allegation. That is without a doubt, and it now emerges that there are several persons that he ripped off. But clearly, if ministers did not know the true nature of the individual, and he appeared to be not just a regular citizen, but somebody who was contributing to economic activity in the country. I can see how acquaintances would have developed. I was happy that Minister Saldivar admitted the man had contributed to his football team. He had visited the man's home, but as soon as he found out that this man was a grifter, he cut him off.
Mason has reportedly embedded himself in Belmopan, establishing business relations, friendships, and building networks while contributing to the economic development of the country. Based on this, Prime Minister Barrow says he can see how the acquaintances could have been made with his cabinet ministers.
In terms of his acquaintanceship with a number of ministers, I would have wished that it had been otherwise. He'd made investments in a piggery, in various other agriculture activities, in a number of areas. And it seems as though he had worked his way, or perhaps wormed his way, into the good graces of a number of people in Belmopan and otherwise.
Despite the speculations on social media that Mason may have been facilitated in his untoward actions by cabinet ministers, Prime Minister says he doesn't subscribe to those beliefs, but does welcome any substantial proof of the contrary.
I am satisfied that no minister who had an acquaintanceship with him engaged in anything untoward as a consequence of that acquaintanceship. If a different truth emerges, I would have to do something about that. It is still unfortunate. Our people are suspicious, and no doubt with justification. And so it is a political embarrassment for the government. But I am satisfied that as a matter of fact, no improper activity was engaged in by any minister in consequence of that minister's acquaintanceship with this fellow.
Since Friday night's discovery of Pastor Llewellyn Lucas's head in Belmopan, it has been uncovered that Mason had entertained several government officials at his home on Intelco Hill, including the head of the Gang Suppression Unit, Mark Flowers, Minister of National Security John Saldivar, Deputy Prime Minister Patrick Faber, and City Councillor Philip Willoughby. So, Prime Minister Barrow says his cabinet ministers are not associated with the untoward dealings of William Mason, and has admitted that Ministers Saldivar and Mena were recipients of financial aid in sports and politics. A few minutes ago, Minister Frank Papa Mena sent out a release speaking of the $10,000 he received from William Mason. The release says, quote, "Yesterday, I informed my cabinet colleagues that over 1 year ago, in the last by-election season, I received a campaign contribution from a businessman I knew as Danny Mason. In the interest of full disclosure, I would like to inform the public at large that about a year and a half ago, I met Mr. Danny Mason through Dr. Henry Canton when he visited Dankriga, expressing interest in the Commerce Bight port. I was later taken to his residence prior to the by-election by Minister John Saldivar. Mr. Danny Mason, who was presented to me as a businessman, contributed $10,000 to my campaign. At no time did I promise to offer any special services or access by virtue of my position to Mr. Mason. The horrendous scenes unveiled over the last few days have been deeply troubling to me and my family and to all Belizeans. To that end, I am publicly returning all of the $10,000 contribution I received for my campaign from the man who I believed to be businessman Mr. Danny Mason. Please know that when I accepted this campaign contribution, I had no reason to believe that Mr. Mason was who he is now known to be. and placing the $10,000 into an escrow account to be used for some kind of charitable purpose. End quote. To be thorough, the media and the PUP press conference questioned John Briceño on whether any of his elected members or senior officials have had contact with William Mason. Here was his response.
If you have a few extra dollars to spare, you're able to control some important political leaders. Sir, has Mr. Mason ever approached the People's United Party to offer campaign finances, or is the PUP or anyone from the PUP's leadership associated with Mr. Mason in any way, or has been to his house?
As far as I know, no.
The BTL Arbitration Award was in the headlines for a number of days, emphasizing on the almost $500 million that would have to be paid out. In the PUP press brief conducted today, the issue was once again brought up. This time, the PUP questioned the Prime Minister on his secret meeting with Lord Michael Ashcroft in Miami.
I cannot allow today to pass without talking about the Miami sellout agreement that the Prime Minister has shackled us with. And I truly believe that the Prime Minister and his advisors did not fully understand what it would actually cost the Belizean people when he nationalized Belize Telemedia Limited in 2009. At that point, and looking back at it, the nationalization of BEL and BTL was solely for political mileage and nothing else. I listened keenly this morning to the Prime Minister's interview on Love FM. He tried to explain this scandalous, and some are saying illegal sellout agreement that the Prime Minister alone brokered in Miami with Lord Ashcroft. The truth is that this BTL fiasco, starting with the nationalization and all the way to the Miami sellout agreement, was all about Dean Barrow and his UDP politics. Ask yourselves the question, who benefited from this fiasco? Certainly Lord Ashcroft benefited handsomely, but it does not end there. Since the nationalization in 2009, who has been the chairman of BTL? Who is the CEO of BTL? None other than the Prime Minister's son, Anwar Barrow. Who is the lawyer representing BTL? Who are the board members of BTL? And you should ask, how much are they being paid? The reality is that only UDP cronies and Lord Ashcroft has benefited from this sellout. While they have benefited, we, the people, have lost our future, $557 million of it, plus interest.
It was almost as though the Prime Minister had preempted the points on the PUP agendas, as this morning, whilst on the morning show, Prime Minister Dean Barrow went into details to explain why he went into the meeting with Lord Ashcroft.
In the circumstances, I'm afraid I entirely disagree with that. And let me tell you why. We've all known that these previous owners, which are companies, Dunkeld Investment Limited, in turn owned by Hayward Trust. When we were trying to send out the money to make the first payment, there were difficulties from the central bank because of the know your customer rules that apply now in terms of anti-money laundering. And it was a hell of a thing to find out who really
will collect the money.
Precisely. In terms of then trying to negotiate a settlement, there was nobody for officials of the government to negotiate with in terms of these trusts, because ultimately you couldn't even find out. You could look at some trustees, you could see Dean Boyce and Keith Arnold on the one side and Philip Osborne and so on, but everybody knew without it being made clear. It's been made clear now because of the disclosures that have had to be made as we've sent money out, that the protector and advisor to these trusts and to these companies is Lord Ashcroft. In effect, he is the moving force, he is the controller, he is, in layman's terms, the owners. He was not prepared to negotiate with officials of the government of Belize, and you might say, well, that's a degree of arrogance. He would justify it on the basis that I am not the owner, I am merely an advisor. He was clearly only prepared to negotiate with me. Why did the negotiation come about at the point that it did? We were just about to get the CCJ ruling on the question of the constitutionality of the nationalization, whether it was valid. While I felt, while the cabinet felt, while our lawyers were convinced that we would win that and that the nationalization would be upheld, there's always litigation risk. For the first time, Lord Ashcroft was prepared to say, I will relinquish my claim to the return of the company if we can talk settlement.
For weeks, we have been hearing the educated and the politicians and the activists speak of the dent in the economy that is anticipated due to the high cost of the arbitration award. Today, the PUP painted a dismal picture of Belize's economic future.
Since 2009, the Belizean people have not seen their quality of life improve. The service of BTL has gotten worse and the cost of electricity has increased. We still have to find $557 million to pay the BTL debt. Where will that money come from if it is not coming from BTL? Is he going to raise taxes? The Prime Minister did not say no to new or increased taxes on Love FM this morning. Is he going to cut government expenses by retrenching people? Only Prime Minister Barrow and his closest advisors know how the punishment will be doled out on the Belizean people. Even before the Miami sellout with BTL, the $557 million that we have to pay, the IMF in their Article 4 first report basically told the Prime Minister that he needs to cut expenses, that the revenues are not matching what he's spending. And the only way he can do that is by increasing taxes. They recommended that GST must go up to 15%. They recommended that of every 5 persons that are either fired or stop working with the government, that they can only hire 1 person in return. I know for a fact that the Prime Minister has a hiring freeze in government. And thirdly, they also mentioned that if this is not working, that they will have to retrench government workers.
So it's just a matter of time, pretty much.
Well, that's what pretty much the Prime Minister admitted. Because if he knew that he was not going to raise taxes, he would have been very clear. You know how he likes us to boast. He would have said, no way. He did not say that. He did not say no to new taxes and raising taxes. Actually, he has been doing this from the beginning of this financial year, when he increased fuel taxes by 50 million. And it continues to go up. Almost every month, the price of fuel continues to go up, and that is hurting the productive sector, the very sector that we need to get us out of this financial mess that the UDP has created.
With the dismal economic forecast made by the PUP, there were some solutions presented to address various national issues.
We call on the Prime Minister to immediately reinstate the Crimes Control Commission to be chaired by the Chief Justice and include the participation of civil society, the churches, and other social partners. Also, we call for a massive investment in programs and infrastructure, especially in the south side of Belize City, to address the challenges that our youth face every day. Let us use existing resources like our school campuses to conduct night classes for our youth, for our risk youth, with courses like music, chess, karate, nail sculpting, hairstyling, sewing, sports, painting, arts, and so on. This has been tested and proven successful in high crime neighborhoods in places like Brazil. We must do more to stem the violence that is destroying our youth and our future.
The command of the gang suppression unit is on leave, but while he is away, there is an allegation that has been made involving him and a 13-year-old child whom he had unlawful sexual intercourse with. Deputy Commissioner Russell Blackett spoke of the allegation.
Called by the commander of the North, Senior Superintendent Greenwich, and he told me certain things on the same topic. I told him to launch the investigation, and presently, by sometime today, I should get the result of that investigation to review the reports and to see what has been said. We want to make sure that it is not malice and that whatever it contains, and once it's true, then we take illegal actions. No one is above the law, not even myself. Well, right now he is presently on vacation leave, and once we deem or see anything that deems to say, well, beyond that doubt that he is involved, then we do the usual thing and move ahead for the interdiction process, if that's so, that is so.
Flowers has been in command of the gang suppression unit since August 2014. Prime Minister Dean Barrow received a check from the Taiwanese ambassador to the tune of $5 million. Barrow, who is the finance minister, received the money as a grant from the Republic of China in Taiwan through the bilateral cooperation program that the two countries share. The grant is to be used in the overall development of the country, with a focus on the improvement in Belize's transportation infrastructure. Other areas to be funded through the grant are the key infrastructure projects, including the Belize City South Side Poverty Alleviation Project Phase 2, the extension of the Southern Highway, Golden Stream, Halacte to the Guatemalan border in the Toledo District, and for the Santa Elena San Ignacio Downtown Bypass Road Project. In a release coming out of the Taiwan Embassy today, it noted that they have always been enthusiastic in helping Belize, and that through the enhancement of the transportation system and public infrastructure, a vibrant economic development and foreseeable improvement of the livelihood of people are much safeguarded. A group of entrepreneurs from the United States by the name of Black Chamber of Commerce is in Belize to create partnerships with Belizean businessmen and women. The group seeks to render assistance to Belizeans with a desire to start their own business. The group has been operating since 2004 and has facilitated more than 500 interactions between U.S. business persons and Belizean entrepreneurs. President of the Tri-County Regional Black Chamber of Commerce, Leandra Thompson, spoke to Love News on their visit and their objectives.
Because the Chamber of Commerce is the mechanism that creates an opportunity for business owners, entrepreneurs to come together and do business, to get more information, to do business together, and to be able to explore opportunities in other countries. And Belize is a country that we have declared as a trading country back in 2007. So this organization has been coming to Belize since 2004, and we have developed and built some great relationships. So we understand how to help the entrepreneur, the potential entrepreneur, the entrepreneur now, in developing more and getting more business and growing successful businesses. We provide them with information, valuable information. We provide them with resources and tools to be economically, to be a part of that economic engine to grow.
Jared Gilmore, a member of the group and a photographer by profession, spoke of the types of businesses they seek to support.
Many times, those persons that are interested in doing the trade mission, they can be young as well as some of our more seasoned entrepreneurs, but they're just looking to pretty much broaden their horizon as well as expand the opportunities for the Belizeans. What we mostly look for is entrepreneurs who are looking to go into tourism or whether agribusiness, but on this particular trade mission, we have those who are experts in printing, those that are experts in photography, as well as the music industry. And then we have some that are actually into the security realm. So we have a wide range of entrepreneurs on this actual trade mission.
Entertainer and record producer Triana Harris formed part of the chamber and is in Belize scouting for new music talent. She explained how talented Belizeans can benefit from partnering with her.
I am here looking for new talent for my record label so I could come here and train them and do some artist development. And I guess it's like a star search kind of a sort of thing to just see what your island has to offer in talent. So I want to meet the young people and I want to work with them. Artist development, a mixtape, we'll record something for them. And of course all the social media, we'll put them on, we'll block them, and we'll see the feedback that we get off of the talent. But if we find a star, we're going to take them all the way to the top. And we would love to represent Belize doing that. We would love to show that Belize has talent.
Harris will be going into schools and conducting interviews to get a glimpse of the wide range of talent available in the country. Drug trafficking charges are being laid against a Guatemalan national. Paul Mahung has the story.
A Guatemalan has been charged with drug trafficking in Punta Gorda. Officer in Command Toledo Police Formation, Assistant Superintendent of Police Clement Cacho, spoke to Love News of the incident.
Monday, 18 July 2016, about 1:45 p.m., acting upon information received, police visited the immigration office, Punta Gorda Town, located in Front Street, whereby upon arrival of the police, a custom officer informed the police that 4 male persons who was granted entry into Belize seems to be acting suspicious. As a result, he conducted a search on the persons, whereby upon searching one who was identified as Harlem Enrique Guevara Castillo, 27 years, date of birth 26/9, 1988, Guatemalan mechanic of Puerto Barras, Guatemala, he found in a red waist bag that Castillo was wearing white powdery substance suspected to be cocaine. Custom officer later handed over the male persons and the drugs to the police. The drugs was weighed and amounted to 36 grams of cocaine, and as a result, Harlem Enrique Guevara Castillo was later charged for drug trafficking.
ASP Cacho confirmed that Harlem Enrique Guevara Castillo remains detained in police custody. Reporting for Love News, Paul Mahong, Punta Gorda.
Abuse of marine life during closed seasons continues to take place along the coastal areas. On Sunday, July 3rd at around 8 a.m., fisheries officers boarded a sailboat called Marvel, which was at Lighthouse Reef Atoll. 6 fishermen were caught with the undersized lobsters and conchs during the closed season. 32-year-old Elodio Tun, 24-year-old Leonardo Castillo, 47-year-old Ovaldino Sandoval, 32-year-old Felipe Pat, 30-year-old Evania Tun, and 30-year-old Denroy Mendez were charged with possession of 9 lobsters bearing eggs, possession of 8 undersized lobsters, and possession of 31 undersized lobster tails. They appeared today before Senior Magistrate Sharon Fraser, and they all pled guilty to all of the charges. For possession of lobster with eggs, they were each fined $205. They were also fined $180, $20 for each lobster, which they have to pay by August 31st, 2016, or in default, they will serve 2 months in prison. They were fined $205 each for possession of 8 undersized lobsters, as an additional fine of $160 each, which they have to pay by September or serve 2 months. Each of them was fined $205 for possession of 31 undersized lobsters, which they must pay by October 31st or serve 2 months in prison. Some of the fishermen were also caught with illegal conch, which carries additional fines. Evan Tun, who was caught with 17 conch in the closed season, was fined an additional $340 and was given until November 30 to pay or serve 2 months in prison. Ovaldino Sandoval, who was caught with 26 illegal conch, was fined an additional $520 and has until November 30th, 2016 to pay off or serve 2 months in jail. Felipe Pat and Denroy Mendez, who were caught with 118 conch, were fined an additional $1,118 or to serve 2 months jail time. Several immigrants were nabbed by police in rural Belize and handed over to immigration officials. Assistant Commissioner of Police Edward Broster spoke of the arrests.
Yesterday, our officers stationed at Crooked Tree intercepted 9 Honduran nationals, 3 female and 6 male, who were in Belize illegally, awaiting to be transported further north, and they were brought in and handed over to the immigration authorities. The details of how they were found we will not release at this time because it will then put in jeopardy some strategy that we have in place for future operations.
Sir, do you all have an idea or have any leads as to who the ringleader is smuggling these people into this country?
We have an idea. I can say that it's an international ring linking Salvador, Guatemala, Belize, and Mexico.
Okay. Sir, also the situation at Crocodile.
Broster says they believe that there is a smuggling ring working between Belize, Guatemala, Mexico, and El Salvador. The 14-foot crocodile believed to have killed the 8-year-old girl was killed. ACP Edward Broster explained how it happened.
The body of the crocodile was discovered, or the carcass of the crocodile was discovered yesterday at about 6:45 p.m. in the river in the Maypen village area.
Can you confirm how the crocodile died?
Gunshot wounds.
How have you all been able to confirm that that is indeed the crocodile that killed the girl?
Because like I had briefed the media earlier, the resident of Maypen saw the crocodile with the child in his mouth and shot the crocodile, and that was when it released the child. And we found the crocodile yesterday at 6:45.
Thank you very much, sir.
The incident occurred over the weekend in Maypen Village, Belize District. The child had gone swimming with 3 other children and an adult when she was taken by the reptile. The Belize Police Department now has a recently constructed police barracks in Hattieville Village, Belize District. The structure was officially opened this morning by the National Security Minister, John Saliva. On hand at the ceremony was the Deputy Commissioner, Russell Blackett, who spoke on the building and how it will serve the police officers.
As I mentioned, it's been a year at the Ministry of National Security. From the onset. There were 2 parties going around. It was the CO along with the AO from that ministry doing checks around the country. And again, we had a secondary tour with the Minister of National Security. We also reviewed what were the most urgent. Of course, we have the Kabir project on stream, and we are presently looking at the priorities that we do need to put first. We have made a number of lists, I guess about 6 locations, mainly in the north and in the south. This building that was bought by the ministry has been over 1 year And as I mentioned, Mr. Castellanos, the Superintendent of Administration, has done a wonderful job in doing the acquiring of these projects.
Minister Saldiva spoke of the funding it took to have the building erected, the source of funds, and way forward for additional police barracks.
Well, there are two sources, as you have already indicated. We have the Kabay project, which we hope will come on stream in terms of implementation, hopefully by December of this year. But we do also have monies that have been budgeted in our Capital 2 that we're trying to stretch as much as we can to deal with the urgent situation. I believe that Kikaka will probably be one of the ones that we will be attacking after this. But we try to make do with what we have, and hopefully the Kabay project will give us a big boost in this respect. It costs $85,000 or so, and I believe that it has taken at least 2.5 years or so to have it done. We had some difficulties last year, but we were able to overcome, and today we have the facility ready.
A U.S. team combining spirituality and sports was welcomed to Western Belize by Belmopan Mayor Khalid Belisle. Fem Cruz has the details.
With open arms this afternoon, Mayor Khalid Belisle and his councillors, along with the Belmopan Sports Council, warmly welcome Amanda Walton and her team of 15 called Team ISF Belize. Love News stopped by and spoke to Amanda, team leader from the United States, who say they are here to share the word of God through the gift of sports.
International Sports Federation is a faith-based organization from the USA that uses the gift of sports to share the Word of God. We've been blessed to work with the Belmopan Sports Council, teaching the skills of volleyball and softball this week. And yesterday we took part in the opening ceremony for the summer camps, where we were welcomed by the mayor of Belmopan. International Sports Federation will continue assisting the Sports Council with camp in both the areas of volleyball and softball until Friday. In the evenings, we are also working with the women's team in Belmopan and Camalote, and it's just been an honor and a blessing to be a part of what God is doing here in the Belmopan area and how He's using the Sports Council and Belmopan and beyond to use sports to share His name with this great nation.
This is Brother Fem Cruz reporting from the nation's capital city, Belmopan, for Love FM.
As is custom, every Wednesday, the community policing officers of the Belize City Police Department go out on the streets, meeting with Belize City residents. Today, officers from the Eastern Division South met with residents from the North Creek area. We caught up with the Deputy Commander of Eastern Division South, Senior Superintendent Alden Dawson. He spoke to us about the particular concerns the residents from Pelican Street shared with them. He also shared the ratings that the residents gave the police department and what residents can ensure their safety on the streets.
Like every other meet and greet, there are positive comments from the residents. They very much appreciate the police patrol, and they have seen increased number in patrol, and they do not have any crime issue in the area. It was one time a hot area. It has a lot to do with the support from the community and the added patrol that we put in. In most cases, there's not much more we can do to improve because the patrol is adequate and these people are satisfied in this area, especially this area, and they do not have any crime problem. We do have a question where rating is concerned, and it varies. We go from 1 to 10 and we ask that 10 being the highest, and we have not received nothing less than an 8 in any case. The community needs to continue to do what they're doing, look out for each other. The neighbors need to start communicating more with each other, and we will do our part to put as much patrol as possible in the area and respond to whatever crime report as quick as possible and deal with the situation.
Senior Superintendent Dawson happily shared that the residents of the North Creek area are satisfied with the work the police are doing in their area. Some pictures of Mayor Khalid Belisle of Belmopan have gone viral as the website powcast.net has stated that Belisle resembles basketball superstar Kobe Bryant. The article reads, quote, "A Belizean politician has been all throughout the web for the past few hours, not because of being a mayor. It has something to do with how he looks. Khalid Belisle, a mayor of Belmopan since 2015, has been known because he looked exactly like Kobe Bryant. Basketball fans shared his pic and it has become viral, end of quote. To see for yourself, you can go to www.powcast.net. Our thought conditioner for today is from Ralph Marston. He says, quote, make it a habit to tell people thank you, to express your appreciation, sincerely and without the expectation of anything in return. Truly appreciate those around you, and you'll soon find many others around you. Truly appreciate life, and you'll find that you have more of it, end of quote. This has been the Evening News on Love Television. We invite you to log on to our website at www.lovefm.com for transcripts of our news stories. Thank you for joining us. Have a safe and enjoyable evening. I am Taryn Butcher.